friends. How are you today? So it is Wednesday, and we are reading this week stories about Cinderella. And you will be noticing this week that not all of the Cinderella tales are the same. And in fact, there may be a Cinderella tale that you are super familiar with, whether it's through a book or a movie. But then there is something called a fractured fairy tale. A fractured fairy tale is when an author takes a really traditional story like Cinderella or like Little Red Riding Hood or like the Three Little Pigs, but then they change the characters. They keep the theme and the general plot of the story the same, but then they kind of change everything else. They might change the setting, they change the time, and they may change the names of the characters or how many characters there are. But in the end, the story comes out sometimes similar and sometimes differently. So today we're going to read, seriously, Cinderella is so annoying. And this story is the story of Cinderella, but instead of Cinderella telling the story from her point of view, we are going to be reading it from the wicked stepmother's point of view. And remember, point of view means who is telling the story, whether it is the main character or whether it is a narrator, which is someone who's not in the story, but they're telling you about the story. So what if we were able to see inside the brain of the stepmother and to hear her thoughts and know what she is thinking and why? Wouldn't that be really interesting? So this story is called A Fractured Fairy Tale because it's still about Cinderella, but it's different. And it is written by Trisha Speed Shaskin and illustrated by Gerald Gerla. Let's get started. Okay. Looking at the faces of the characters on the title page, look at the emotions that are showing on their faces. What do you notice? All right, let's get started. You must have heard of me, the wicked stepmother? Not true. It's just another one of Cinderella's wild stories, not as wild as the one about the pumpkin and the fairy godmother. It's the real story, the true story. Begin with some chatter and some dust. Let's keep going. I wonder what she says happens. All I ever wanted was a husband and a mansion. Before I married Cindy's father, my two darlings and I had met Cindy only a few times. The girl had seemed normal then. Cindy? Oh, they mean Cinderella. That must be her nickname. After I married Cindy's father, my darlings and I moved in. And when I had just 1 foot on the front step, my dear husband kissed me goodbye, and said, I'm off on business. He leaves often, Cindy said, but the animals stay put. They talk, they joke, they sing, they even help out, especially the bluebirds. I am sure the stepmother is wondering what in the world is she talking about. Now, I don't mind a story, but I like facts, not fiction. Soon the girl was talking all kinds of hokey pokey. Once upon a time, Cinderella said, one of the bluebirds became blue. Not the color, the feeling. His friend had flown south. Huh? So my darlings and I were stuck near the front door. I just wanted to put away my bags, and that's when I saw it. Dust. Dear, is the whole house this dusty? I asked. I don't know, Cindy asked, so I'll give you a tour. I wonder what they're going to see as they go around the house and take a tour. In the dining room, Cindy told stories. And in the study, which is another word for a library inside a house, Cindy told stories non-stop. Girls, I said, time to get to work. This place needs a good cleaning. Once upon a time when I was cleaning, Cindy started. Oh boy. What is the wicked stepmother just trying to do? What is Cinderella doing instead? For all the parents out there, we know how we feel about that, right? Cindy mopped the floor, but she finished so fast. My darlings, when she says my darlings, I believe she means her daughters, had barely started. Did you know that robins and sparrows are my friends? She said, but the sparrows don't like the robins. Silly creatures. Once upon a time, when one of the robins... Cindy, dear, I said, why don't you go and wash the clothes now? Let's see here. But Cindy washed them so fast. How on earth did she do it? I had to find another chore for her just to keep her busy. How do you think she did it so fast? Was she really trying to pile on the chores? If there's one thing squirrels love, it's washing clothes, Cindy said. The rats, though, they would rather iron. You know, one day Squirrels and rats doing laundry. Quit telling such foolish stories, I said. Time passed, but nothing changed. And in the garden, Cindy told stories. And in the kitchen, Cindy told stories. And at dinner, I couldn't hear myself think. Dear, please, I said, stop talking. But Cindy didn't stop. Have you ever told anybody to stop talking? Has an adult ever told you to stop talking? I wonder why that is. So one day, a letter arrived. It was an invitation to the king's ball. The prince would surely fall in love with one of my darlings, and then they would marry and they would live in a beautiful castle and one day be king and queen of all the land. Oh, stepmother, I have to go too, said Cindy. Once upon a time, a girl and a prince. And then, just like that, Cindy lost her voice. Oh, imagine. It had to be from all that storing. Well, what could I do? I told Cindy she had to stay home for her health. She cried, of course, but a ball was no place for a sick girl. I mean, she needed some rest. Sometimes it's so hard being a stepmother. So do you think that the stepmother is making up stuff? Or do you think that Cinderella just left out a few convenient facts when she told her side? Who do you believe? Who do you think everybody else believes? At the ball, my darlings twirled. They whirled. But then some strange girl just waltzed in. Her gown was magnificent. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I wondered how much it cost and if my seamstress could copy it for me. The prince and the girl just danced and they pranced, and my poor darlings were just left princeless. Look at the color of her dress. Interesting. I wonder where she got that dress. So a few days later, the prince made an announcement. A glass slipper had been left at the castle. The prince would marry the girl whose foot fit in it. It's our big chance. After visiting every other mansion in the neighborhood, the prince's valet arrived at our door. Me, said one of my daughters. No, me, said the other. One at a time, said the valet. Each girl tried the shoe, but the shoe didn't fit. Then Cindy pushed out a whisper. Please let me try. The shoe fit. Cindy pulled the match out of her pocket. A match? You mean like fire? Oh, match, like the match of the shoe, because their shoes come in a pair. What? My darling said, because Cindy pushed out another whisper. She said something about a pumpkin coach and mice that turned into horses. She even said fairy godmother. Please, there's no such thing. But I still don't know where she got those shoes. Are you believing one story more than another? Have you ever heard two sides of a story? What have you learned about that? So a few days later, the prince married Cindy. Poor man. He had no idea what he was getting himself into. But we lived happily ever after. So I know this week you've been learning the traits of fairy tales, and I want you to tell me some of the traits that all fairy tales have. For example, they start with, and what words do they end with? And what can you tell me about some of the characters and animals in a fairy tale? And so, is this a fairy tale? And it still takes place long ago. It's just from a different point of view. And one of the things that we often notice when we talk about point of view, especially in real life, is that neither story is 100% completely true. Usually, both sides leave out some important information. And so if we were to put the ideas from the traditional Cinderella together with the details from this one, would we have a better picture of maybe what just really did happen? Or did it even happen at all? Do fairy tales or the events from a fairy tale even exist? What do you think? If you have time, that's something that would be really interesting to write about in your journal. Your opinion of both sides of the story. Also, as you can see, it's an orange level book, so that means that it is on the AR list for you to take a quiz. You definitely would want to take a chance at that, and don't forget to click that it is a story that you listen to. So I'm looking forward to bringing you more tales, fractured fairy tales, the rest of the week, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon.